So the New York Giants won yesterday. I know, it's been a while. We're going to get into it. So at 1 o'clock yesterday, the Giants scored a touchdown in the first half, in the first quarter. I think it was the first quarter. And Tyrod Taylor was the one who threw it, not Daniel Jones. It was the first touchdown of the regular season at home for the New York Giants. It was the first touchdown in the first half of the season, and it was their first touchdown in a month. But they did it. And not only did they do that, they got the win yesterday, which was a much needed win. It was a must win for the team if they expected their fans to even pay attention to the rest of the season. It's really that simple. Because the New York Giants were coming into this game 1-5, playing the 3-3 Commanders, who as of late have kind of been exposed a little bit as probably not that great a team, right? And the New York Giants are at home. They're coming off a rough loss to the Buffalo Bills, but they showed some signs of, you know what? They should beat the Commanders. If they played that well against the Bills, or at least better against the Bills, then they should be able to come in at home versus the Commanders and take care of business, especially with their season on the line, their intentions, their motivations. Their intention is to win. They don't want to trade Saquon Barkley. They don't want to get rid of their vets. They believe, as part of me does, that the first 6 games of the schedule were such a juggernaut. And mixing that with the injuries, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that there is potential to rise back up with this team and still have a season that's somewhat respectable. Well, the Giants had to win yesterday in order to make that happen, because if they came out 1-6 and they lost to the Commanders, going into the Jets, who are a better team than the Commanders and who have looked really good as of late, I mean, that's it. You're not coming back from 1-6. 1-5, maybe. Now, why are the Giants the specific team that can come out of this hole? I don't know. Because the talent on this team is not anything to write home about. We thought they made additions to last year's playoff berth of a team. Andrew Thomas is out. Saquon Barkley was out for a long time. The Giants have looked way better with Saquon Barkley. The offensive line has looked better. Is it a coincidence that with Evan Neal not playing yesterday that the O-line didn't seem to bother anybody? Or last week as well, like with Tyrod Taylor, a quarterback? And here's what I want to get into with this game right here, is that Tyrod Taylor has now proven for a second straight week, even though the second half of yesterday wasn't really anything crazy for the team. They didn't score. They honestly kind of played a little pathetic, and they almost blew the game. And we're going to get into that, because there's no excuse whether the game was even that close. The Giants should have killed the Commanders, and they didn't. And that's somewhat concerning. That's not a great football team. Now, you live to see another week, but it wasn't uplifting to see, because sometimes you just got to get the job done. And that's what the Giants did. But at the same time, you wonder, how many mistakes did they make? This game should have been 28-0 easily. I mean, or 21-0. I mean, when Sterling Shepard muffs that punt, muffs the punt, leads to the only touchdown and the only chance for the Commanders on that side of the field, and they score. So instead of up 14-0, just stop the Commanders. Commanders can't even get into the goal line. Right? They can't even get to that point of the field. So if that's the case, just catching the punt, catching it, Sterling Shepard, catching it. Okay. And it's 14-0 going the other way. You have all the momentum. You're at your home. You can make it 21-0. As soon as that happened, the crowd went quiet. And then all of a sudden, all that momentum. The defense didn't play as good. The offense was bad. Couldn't get anything done. Although you got to give credit for the blocked field goal. Got to give credit for that. Leonard Williams with a huge block on that field goal. And that was a must. Because, I mean, it ended up not being a must because they still would have had to score a touchdown anyway. But at the end, it would have made you sweat a little less, I guess. But, Rivera didn't go for 2 a few weeks ago versus Philadelphia Eagles and probably regretted it. And I said he should have done that. I think many people should have said he should have done that. And he's in the same situation at this point. If he was in the same situation, he probably would have went for 2. Because he's probably like, we have all the momentum now. I'm going to take and ruin the hearts of this Giants fan base right here. Now, it didn't get to that point. The defense held up and won them the game. So you got to give credit to this Giants defense. Tyrod Taylor did enough, especially in the first half, to really separate themselves offensively. The Commanders were just awful offensively, just awful. And I think that this Giants defense, now obviously you're facing different opponents, but the Commanders have showed moments, right? The Giants a few weeks ago, for say the 49ers or the Cowboys or, the Cardinals, looked like and Seattle, looked like the softest defense you could see. Just not tackling well. Just blown coverages. Guys wide open. And I think if you had to point something out that looks better for the Giants significantly since then is that the defense looks way better. They're getting to the quarterback. They weren't at first. They're getting key interceptions. They weren't turning over the ball. And they're tackling people, which is great. They're making good tackles. And yeah, they had those moment in the second half, where they were kind of letting Washington drive down the field in a very important part of the game. Listen, that's going to happen sometimes, but the offense should have made sure that that wasn't a situation. That's how they got to that point. So all I have to say about the New York Giants, specifically with Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones, is I am still going with what I said last week. And that's, I still believe Daniel Jones is an average to slightly above average quarterback, which is what they paid him because he's the 13th highest quarterback in the league. That's slightly above average. So I still think that. I think we shouldn't ignore his second half versus Arizona. I think that shows what he's capable of. Tyrod Taylor has yet to do anything like that. However, Tyrod Taylor has looked really good in the last 2 games. And I think it says a lot that even when your starting quarterback is not there, you could still win some games. However, that was the case with Baltimore last year, right? With Lamar. They were still competitive even without Lamar Jackson because they had a good backup quarterback. So Taylor is now an above 500 quarterback when he starts. That's the best backup quarterback you could find. You could tell last year when they signed him, they knew hey, we're not really sold on this Daniel Jones guy. We're just not, when the new front office came in, we're not really sold on him. So we're going to sign one of the best backup quarterbacks in Tyrod Taylor. He gets injured a lot. And you're seeing that this year. Daniel Jones injured. He was all healthy all last year, but we all knew there was a question with Jones and Barkley and their health. Well, this year you're seeing it. So it's something where it's Tyrod Taylor comes in and you think, okay, we can still win with Tyrod Taylor, and that's good. And the team seems to be playing a lot better around Tyrod Taylor. I don't know if that's specifically what he's doing. He seems to make better decisions. But Taylor still hasn't done anything out of the ordinary. He still hasn't done, like I said before, what that second half versus Arizona was. But I really like Tyrod Taylor, and I still think you keep Jones on the sideline until Taylor gives you a game we got to bench him, right? But he's yet to do that. And it's going to lead to a quarterback controversy, especially if the Giants beat the Jets next week. Now, the Jets are going to have that elite defense. Zach Wilson's playing better. They got a cockiness to them. Now, I think we all know who the number one team in town is between the Giants and the Jets. That doesn't mean the Jets don't have their elite fan base, because they do. And they're starving fans. So it's going to be a crazy day at MetLife. But the Giants have to win that game too. These are must wins at this point. If you start out 1-5, you got to get some must wins. Because if you can go from 2-5 to 3-5, then you start, turning some eyes, turning some heads. So the New York Giants, as I said, in their future games, right? Although they haven't looked good, they are 2-5, right? They lost to Seattle, they lost to Miami, they lost to Buffalo, they lost to Dallas, they lost to San Francisco, and they've beaten Arizona and Washington Commanders. I mean, other than Seattle, which I think was kind of like a if or when. I mean, that's kind of what I expected. I didn't expect them to beat Miami. I didn't expect them, at least this point so far, because Miami has looked really good. But as things have gone on, I've kind of expected that. Now the Jets, I didn't expect them to beat the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, but do I expect them to be competitive against the Zach Wilson Jets? Yes, I do. So I think it's going to be a really good game, because I think Taylor has proven that he can keep the Giants in games. It's really going to come down to that defense. The Jets defense makes Taylor look like a buffoon, which I don't think that's going to be the case. It's going to come down to the defenses and the coaching. Very important in the coaching. Robert Saleh's clock management. I don't believe Brian Daboll's a bad coach. I think this year has been a circumstance of bad luck and poor play by his players. I don't think that's coaching. Okay, you're seeing with Wink Martindale. I mean, Wink Martindale looked like a buffoon earlier in the year. The defense was awful. Now the defense looks much better. So we're going to say, oh, all of a sudden Wink Martindale's a genius again? No. He was always really good. And I still believe that with Brian Daboll. I really do. Now the Giants are 2-5. It's disappointing. We thought they would be better. Seattle, Buffalo. There's a world where they're better, but they're not. And bad teams find a way to lose games, but they won yesterday. Now they almost lost, but they won. So the season is still alive. Because they're in a situation where they got to take it week by week. The Jets, they got to look at that game, be like, okay, familiar territory here at MetLife still. Our fans are going to be there. I mean, the fans are everywhere. But this is a game that we know we got a shot, right? We got a shot. We can win this, right? Then next week, Vegas. Vegas hasn't been good. Can you make that 4-5? Then you start obviously I'm looking farther than next week, but if you're a Giants fan, you're thinking this, okay, next week versus the Jets, I think we can possibly compete in that game. And next week versus the Raiders. And then you're going into the Cowboys game 4-5, who the Cowboys, yeah, they're still good. Yeah, they still own the Giants, but with no Trayvon Diggs, are they the same team as they played in week 1? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. That wasn't a great win, but it was a great feeling to see the New York Giants win yesterday. It's just very nice, because if they started out 1-6, I mean, that's football. Football ends for me, honestly. Just to this franchise for this season. It would have ended it. So I'm glad they got the win. And sometimes that's what you need to build off. That's what you need to build off of. Because the talent is there. It's just things coming together. And even though yesterday was ugly, they got it done.